Listen closely, because after this moment, you won't be the same man you were 5 minutes ago. Reinvention isn't a trend, it's a weapon. And the world fears the man who transforms without warning, the man who becomes unpredictable, unbreakable, untouchable, the man who stops explaining himself and starts evolving in silence. That's the version of you I'm speaking to, the one buried under hesitation, routine, and the expectations of people who never wanted you to win. Today, you break that shell. Today, you step into the shadow code. Understand this. Power belongs to the person who can change faster than others can understand. People stay weak because they cling to identities that no longer serve them. But not you. Not anymore. You will become the type of force that confuses your enemies, intimidates your rivals, and inspires those smart enough to pay attention. Comment below. I evolve in silence. Every move you make from this point forward will be intentional, strategic, and unpredictable. No one will see your next version coming, and when it arrives, it will be too late for them to react. You're not here to improve. You're here to transform. Say it again. I evolve in silence. Number 1. The death of your old self. Your old self was predictable, exposed, and far too easy for the world to read. And that is exactly why he must die here, quietly, without ceremony or regret, because the man you are becoming has no space for the weaknesses that once chained you to mediocrity. Understand this clearly. Reinvention begins with destruction, the deliberate killing of every habit, impulse, and emotional reflex that made you easy to manipulate, because power is never granted to the familiar. It is claimed by the one who becomes unfamiliar, even to himself. And that is your mission now, to peel away every layer that was shaped by fear, approval-seeking, or the desire to fit in, and replace it with a colder, sharper identity that answers to no one, moves without announcing, and grows without permission. People around you will sense this shift. They will feel your silence turn heavier, your presence turn darker, your eyes become harder to read, and they will wonder what changed. But you will not explain a thing, because explanation is weakness and mystery is leverage. Comment below. My old self dies today. Let the world meet someone it never prepared for, someone it can't predict, bend, or break. Number 2. The birth of your strategic identity. Reinvention is not chaos. It is calculation, the cold engineering of a new identity built with intention rather than accident. And if your old self died in silence, then this new version must be born in even deeper silence, because power grows fastest in the dark, where no one can interfere, sabotage, or dilute it with their opinions. Understand this. Most people build themselves through reactions. They react to rejection, react to pressure, react to judgment. But a strategic identity is built through decisions, chosen deliberately, crafted patiently, sharpened ruthlessly, until the man you become is the result of design rather than circumstance. And that is where your ascent truly begins. You are no longer shaped by emotion, impulse, or fragile desire. You are shaped by purpose, by a vision no one else has seen, by a standard that forces you to rise every single day, even when no one is watching. Because true transformation doesn't happen in front of an audience. It happens alone, in the moments where discipline feels heavier than your excuses. People will try to pull you back into the version of yourself that made them comfortable, because your evolution threatens their stability, their ego, their illusion of knowing who you are. But you must resist the temptation to shrink, to soften, to explain, because a strategic identity demands that you move like a man with secrets worth fearing, a man whose silence holds more power than others' speeches, a man who doesn't reveal his dreams, weaknesses, or intentions. And because of that, no one can predict his next move. Comment below. I build myself by design. From this point forward, every word you speak will have weight, every step you take will have direction, every decision you make will have purpose, because you are no longer trying to fit into the world. You are reshaping yourself to dominate it, confuse it, and rise above it with a presence that cannot be analyzed or controlled. Number 3. Mastering unpredictability as a weapon. Unpredictability is not randomness. It is controlled ambiguity, the deliberate crafting of a presence that keeps others guessing, recalculating, and doubting their assumptions about you. Because once people think they understand you, they begin to box you, limit you, and maneuver around you. But when you become unreadable, their strategies collapse, their confidence fractures, and their power over you dissolves instantly. To master unpredictability, you must first master emotional concealment, because nothing reveals a man faster than his reactions. Anger exposes his insecurities, jealousy exposes his fears, excitement exposes his desires. But when you move with calm neutrality, when your face doesn't betray your thoughts, when your tone remains steady regardless of the situation, you become a psychological puzzle that no one can solve. And in a world built on assumptions, the man who cannot be assumed becomes dangerous. Next, you must master behavioral unpredictability, not by acting erratically, but by refusing to be locked into patterns that others rely on to predict your next step. So change your routines, adjust your pace, switch your priorities, and never allow people to map your behavior like a formula, because when your movements are fluid and adaptable, no one can trap you, anticipate you, or weaken you. Finally, you must become unpredictable in ambition, because nothing frightens observers more than a man who grows in directions they never expected, who evolves beyond the goals they assumed he had, who reinvents his purpose before the world has even understood the last one. Unpredictability forces people to respect you, to tread carefully, to observe instead of interfere, and that psychological distance gives you immense leverage in every social, professional, and personal battlefield you enter. But remember this: unpredictability must always be grounded in discipline, because without structure it becomes chaos, but with structure it becomes strategy, a way of moving through life as a force that cannot be contained or controlled. Comment below: my silence confuses my enemies. From now on, let your moves be felt, not forecasted. Let your presence be known, not explained. Let every step you take shift the ground beneath others before they even realize what happened, because the man who cannot be predicted cannot be defeated. Number 4. The architecture of becoming unbreakable. To become unbreakable, you must first understand what actually breaks a man, because it is rarely the weight of life itself. It is the cracks he refuses to acknowledge, the weaknesses he continues to justify, the patterns he keeps repeating, and the emotions he allows to control him. An unbreakable man is not someone who avoids hardship, but someone who builds himself to absorb, redirect, and rise through hardship without losing form, dignity, or direction. And this level of resilience does not come from motivation. It comes from construction, the slow, intentional forging of a mental and emotional armor that cannot be penetrated by noise, pressure, opinions, or betrayal. Becoming unbreakable requires emotional discipline, the ability to feel without collapsing, to analyze without drowning, to endure without complaining, because every time you resist the urge to react impulsively, you strengthen your inner steel, and every time you refuse to let another person's behavior dictate your state of mind, you reclaim power that most men never touch. Next, you must build physical discipline, not for aesthetics, but for mastery. Because the body is the first battlefield, and a weak body creates a weak mind, while a trained body reinforces a trained will. Every repetition, every cold morning, every moment you conquer resistance builds a deeper layer of strength beneath your skin. Then comes strategic isolation, the willingness to pull away from people who drain you, distract you, or diminish you. Because an unbreakable man is built in silence, in solitude, in the hours where no one claps for him, no one validates him, no one understands what he's becoming, and those hours are where his power hardens. Finally, you must embrace controlled adversity, deliberately placing yourself in situations that force growth, whether it's discomfort, challenge, uncertainty, or responsibility. Because a man who avoids difficulty becomes fragile, but a man who walks toward it becomes indestructible. Understand this: unbreakable does not mean emotionless. It means immovable. A man whose emotions do not hijack his judgment, a man whose loyalty cannot be manipulated, a man whose purpose cannot be derailed by setbacks, rejection, or temporary defeat. Comment below: pressure strengthens me. From this moment forward, every challenge becomes training, Every disappointment becomes fuel. Every hardship becomes another layer of armor around a mind destined to rise above the weakness that consumes ordinary men. You are not here to survive. You are here to build a version of yourself the world cannot fracture, bend, or ever bring to its knees. Number 5. The psychology of becoming untouchable. To become untouchable is to reach a level of psychological sovereignty where no opinion, no person, no betrayal, no setback, and no external force has the power to destabilize you, because true power is not measured by how much you control others. It is measured by how little others can control you, and this is where most men fail, because they build strength on validation, identity on attention, confidence on approval, and when those crumble, they crumble with them. Untouchability begins with detachment, the ability to walk through the world without needing anything from anyone, not affection, not reassurance, not acceptance, because a man who needs nothing becomes impossible to manipulate, and a man impossible to manipulate becomes impossible to defeat. Detachment does not mean isolation. It means sovereignty, the freedom to choose, act, and move without emotional dependence. And once you master it, people will feel something different around you, something unsettling, something magnetic, because they will sense that their words no longer influence you, their opinions no longer define you, and their behavior no longer dictates your mood. Next, you must master internal validation, building a self-worth that comes from discipline, integrity, and your own silent standards rather than applause, because applause is unstable, unpredictable, and easily withdrawn, but self-validation is permanent, grounded, and unshakable. When your value comes from within, no rejection can diminish you, no comparison can weaken you, and no external noise can penetrate your inner clarity. Then comes mastery of emotional neutrality, the ability to hold your ground when others try to provoke you, insult you, undermine you, or trigger you. Because the moment someone can provoke you, they own you, but when you stop reacting, you remove their power completely, leaving them confused, frustrated, and powerless. Neutrality is not weakness. It is psychological dominance, a silent statement that says, "You no longer have access to my emotional world," and that alone makes you untouchable. Next, you must cultivate selective visibility, choosing what people see, what they know, and what they assume, because exposing your fears invites predators, exposing your ambitions invites saboteurs, and exposing your emotions invites manipulators. But when you reveal little and observe much, you become the one who controls the psychological terrain. People cannot attack what they cannot see, cannot undermine what they cannot access, and cannot predict what they cannot read. Finally, becoming untouchable requires the strategic discipline to protect your mind from low-quality environments, low-quality people, and low-quality content, because your mental ecosystem shapes your strength or your downfall, and the man who curates his inputs curates his destiny. Comment below. Nothing shakes me anymore. From this moment on, you rise above distraction, above drama, above emotional turbulence. You operate from a higher plane, quiet, calculating, centered, where you are influenced by nothing except your purpose and shaped by nothing except your discipline. This is the psychology of becoming untouchable. A man who walks through storms without losing his balance, through conflict without losing his composure, and through life without allowing anyone to place chains on his mind, his emotions, or his path ever again. Number 6. The power of silent evolution and invisible growth. Silent evolution is the highest form of power because it allows you to grow without interference, transform without resistance, and rise without becoming a target too early. And this is where most men fail. They announce their goals, expose their intentions, reveal their insecurities, and then wonder why the world obstructs, sabotages, or ridicules their attempts at transformation. Understand this deeply. When the world knows what you're becoming, it will try to stop you. But when it has no idea what you're building in the dark, it cannot touch you, cannot track you, cannot undermine you. Invisible growth is not merely a tactic. It is a lifestyle, a commitment to evolving at a level so quiet and consistent that one day your existence itself becomes a shock to the very people who once underestimated you. Silent evolution begins with internal restructuring, the slow dismantling of your weaknesses and the deliberate replacement of them with strength, discipline, and clarity. Every day you rise earlier, think sharper, train harder, detach deeper, and refine your mindset until your inner world becomes too strong to be shaken and too ordered to be infiltrated. This phase is not for display. This phase is for destruction and reconstruction, the tearing down of the old walls inside you that were built from insecurity, approval-seeking, childhood expectations, or past failures, and the rebuilding of new psychological foundations forged from purpose, self-respect, and uncompromising standards. Next comes pattern withdrawal, the conscious decision to break away from routines that trapped you in predictability because your habits are windows into your mind. And as long as people can predict your habits, they can predict your decisions, your emotions, and your vulnerabilities. To evolve silently, you begin adjusting your pace, your social presence, your responses, and your priorities, not erratically, but strategically, creating confusion for anyone attempting to understand or categorize you. They will think you are pulling away, disconnecting, or losing interest, but in reality, you are reinventing yourself quietly, far beyond their field of vision. Then comes energy conservation, the discipline of not wasting emotional, mental, or physical energy on meaningless battles, petty conflicts, or hollow relationships, because evolution requires fuel, and every moment spent defending yourself, proving yourself, or arguing with people who don't matter drains the energy needed to build the new you. Silence becomes your shield, neutrality becomes your advantage, and disengagement becomes your filter, eliminating everything that does not strengthen you or serve your path. After this, you enter the phase of strategic isolation, not loneliness, but chosen solitude, the kind that sharpens your perception, strengthens your independence, and gives you the space required for deep transformation, because no man becomes powerful while surrounded by noise, distraction, or constant emotional stimulation. The greatest versions of men are sculpted in the quiet hours where no one is watching, no one is praising, and no one is expecting anything from you. Isolation becomes the forge where your mind hardens, your discipline compounds, and your ambitions mature into something vivid, grounded, and unstoppable. Once this foundation is solid, silent evolution shifts into external refinement, where you begin altering how you speak, how you move, how you dress, how you respond, how you carry yourself, not theatrically but with intention, until your presence alone communicates strength, restraint, and authority. People will notice the difference without understanding it, because they will sense your internal stability in the steadiness of your voice, the patience of your decisions, the detachment in your reactions, and the weight behind your silence. They will feel that you are no longer accessible in the same way, no longer predictable in the same way, no longer controlled by impulses in the same way. This is where silent evolution becomes a psychological weapon, when your growth becomes noticeable but unexplainable, when your presence becomes heavier but your words become fewer, when your standards rise but your explanations disappear. People will try to analyze you, question you, interpret you, but silence is your fortress, and they will find no openings. Next comes the phase of invisible ambition, where your goals expand, your vision sharpens, and your discipline intensifies, but you reveal nothing, not your plans, not your fears, not your progress, because you understand that the moment your intentions become public, they become vulnerable, but as long as they stay buried within you, they remain invincible. You learn to work without announcing, to win without warning, to level up without broadcasting, and to let your results appear out of nowhere, leaving others confused, intimidated, and scrambling to adjust. Finally, silent evolution becomes a lifestyle, a code, a way of moving through life as an unseen force that grows, adapts, and strengthens without validation, permission, or applause. Comment below, "I grow where no one sees." From this moment forward, your transformation will no longer be something you talk about. It will be something you live, breathe, embody. Every day in the dark will add another layer of strength, clarity, and strategic maturity. And when the world finally meets the version of you that emerged from silence, it will be too late for them to stop it, too late for them to compete with it, too late for them to understand how you became the man they now fear, respect, or silently envy. This is how you rise, quietly, consistently, invisibly, until your existence itself becomes your loudest statement. Number 7. The dark art of controlling your inner world. To control the world outside you, you must first conquer the world within you, because every act of power, every strategic decision, every moment of discipline or dominance originates from your internal landscape. And if that landscape is chaotic, emotional, reactive, wounded, or ungoverned, then your external life will always reflect the same instability. This is why the greatest kings, generals, and strategists did not begin with armies. They began with themselves, mastering the storms inside their own minds long before they stepped onto any battlefield, because the man who conquers himself becomes untouchable in every arena of life. And the man who fails to conquer himself becomes vulnerable everywhere, even in victory. Controlling your inner world begins with the mastery of thought. The ability to observe your mind without becoming enslaved by it, because most men are prisoners of their own thoughts, dragged around by impulses, assumptions, fears, and illusions that were planted into them by society, family, trauma, or weakness. When you gain the ability to step back and witness your thoughts, instead of immediately reacting to them, you reclaim the throne inside your mind. And from that throne, you can begin shaping reality with intention instead of being shaped by it subconsciously. Next comes emotional regulation, the discipline of not allowing your feelings to hijack your logic, because emotion is the doorway through which enemies, manipulators, and circumstances gain access to your power. Anger makes you reckless, fear makes you hesitant, excitement makes you sloppy, jealousy makes you blind, and sadness makes you stagnant. But when you learn to control your internal temperature, cooling yourself when heated, grounding yourself when shaken, stabilizing yourself when triggered, you become a fortress, and a fortress is feared because it cannot be breached. Regulating emotion is not about suppressing it. Suppression creates internal rot. It is about rerouting it, transforming raw feeling into focused energy, something you can use deliberately rather than something that uses you. Then comes the eradication of internal noise, the endless chatter of doubt, insecurity, overthinking, and mental clutter that weakens your decisions and drains your strength. Internal noise is the enemy of clarity, and clarity is the breath of power, so you must learn to quiet your mind through discipline, minimalism, solitude, structured routines, and the elimination of mental junk. Too much consumption, too much distraction, too much comparison, too much digital chaos. Once the noise lowers, your intuition becomes sharp, your vision becomes vivid, and your perception becomes precise, because the mind, when cleaned and sharpened, becomes a blade that cuts through illusion, temptation, and manipulation with ease. After gaining control over thought and emotion, you must master internal dialogue, the constant conversation you have with yourself, because your inner voice either builds you into a weapon or breaks you into a victim. Weak men speak to themselves with helplessness, excuses, and fear, reinforcing their own insignificance, but powerful men speak to themselves with command, direction, accountability, and purpose, forging an identity that grows stronger every time they confront discomfort or resist temptation. Your internal dialogue must become commanding, not comforting. You must speak to yourself like a general, not a child. Because greatness is not born from softness, it is born from self-governance. And the general within you must constantly remind you of your mission, your standard, and the man you are building. Next, you must develop emotional detachment from outcomes, because attachment to results creates anxiety, desperation, and weakness, while detachment creates composure, flexibility, and strategic patience. When you no longer cling to specific outcomes, you stop fearing failure. And when you stop fearing failure, you begin to act with boldness, precision, and clarity. Fear disappears when attachment disappears, and the man who fears nothing moves through the world with an aura that others can feel. even if they cannot explain it. After this comes the discipline of redirecting internal energy, the ability to take frustration, anger, ambition, loneliness, rejection, or pressure and convert them into fuel rather than letting them become poison. Weak men explode or collapse under emotional energy, but powerful men channel it into training, building, mastering, improving, learning, and evolving. Every emotional storm inside you becomes a forge. Every internal conflict becomes an opportunity to strengthen your will, and every frustration becomes a fire that hardens your mental steel. Then you must master the art of psychological reframing, the ability to reinterpret negative situations in ways that empower rather than weaken you. Setbacks become signals, not failures. Rejection becomes protection, not humiliation. Betrayal becomes clarity, not heartbreak. Adversity becomes training, not punishment. When you control the meaning you assign to your experiences, you control the impact they have on you, and meaning is the ultimate source of internal power. Next, you must develop the capacity for long-range thinking, the ability to hold a vision of yourself far beyond your current reality, because the man who can see himself 10 years ahead moves differently than the man who can only see himself today. Long-range thinking creates unshakable discipline because every sacrifice becomes meaningful, every delay becomes acceptable, and every challenge becomes part of the architecture of your future self. Men who think short-term crumble under pressure, but men who think long-term become forces of nature because time bends in favor of the disciplined. Once you have mastered long-range thought, you must adopt internal sovereignty, the principle that no one has authority over your emotions, identity, self-worth, or direction except you. People can disappoint you but not define you, insult you but not injure you, doubt you but not derail you, and leave you but not lessen you. Sovereignty means you are the ruler of your inner world and no external force can dethrone you. After sovereignty comes resilience, the ability to absorb pressure without collapsing internally, because the man who builds resilience at the psychological level becomes unmovable at the physical and social levels. Resilience is built through exposure to discomfort, confrontation with fear, acceptance of challenge, endurance of solitude, and repetition of discipline. It is built through controlled suffering that strengthens the mind instead of wounding it. And then comes internal integration, the process of aligning your thoughts, emotions, actions, values, and identity into one cohesive system. Because most men are internally divided. They think one way, feel another way, and act in a completely different way, living in constant contradiction that weakens them from the inside. Integration creates internal unity, and unity creates internal power, the kind of power that produces consistency, conviction, and stability in every aspect of your life. And finally, controlling your inner world requires the discipline of continuous refinement, because your mind is not something you conquer once. It is something you must govern daily, sharpening yourself again and again so that weakness never takes root. Mastery is not a destination, it is maintenance, and maintenance is the quiet ritual of powerful men. Comment below, "My mind belongs to me alone." From this point forward, you are no longer a man controlled by moods, impulses, fears, doubts, or emotional instability. You are the architect, the ruler, the strategist of your own inner world, and because of that, nothing outside you will ever have the power to command you again. Number 8. The strategic use of power, presence, and psychological influence. Power is not taken by accident, and it is never maintained by luck. It is engineered, constructed, and wielded with precision by the man who understands that influence begins long before he speaks, long before he acts, long before he even enters the room. Because true power is rooted in presence, perception, and the psychological architecture you build around yourself. And the moment you understand this truth, you stop chasing authority and begin creating it from the ground up. Power starts with how you carry yourself, the discipline behind your posture, the steadiness in your voice, the sharpness in your gaze, and the silence you choose when others reach for noise, because presence is not about being loud. It is about being undeniable, and every great strategist in history mastered presence before strategy. When you walk into a space with controlled energy, unhurried movement, and emotionless awareness, people feel your weight before they know your name. This is not charisma. It is psychological pressure created by your restraint, your neutrality, and your ability to observe everything without exposing anything. Next, you must master the dark psychology of unpredictability, the subtle shifts in behavior that keep others slightly off balance. Because if people cannot anticipate you, they cannot prepare for you, counter you, or undermine you. Unpredictability comes not from chaos, but from disciplined variation, changing your routines, delaying your responses, adjusting your pace, appearing where you're least expected, and moving in silence when others expect noise. This makes people question their assumptions about you, and every time an assumption breaks, your power grows. Then comes the mastery of perceived emotional distance, the ability to appear unaffected, unshaken, and unreachable even when the world is chaotic around you, because emotional distance does not make you cold. It makes you sovereign, and sovereignty creates psychological dominance. When people cannot read your triggers, your desires, your weaknesses, or your intentions, they lose their power over you, and they begin treating you with caution, respect, curiosity, or fear. This emotional invisibility must be cultivated intentionally, by speaking less, revealing less, listening more, and becoming a man whose mind is a locked chamber rather than an open window. Next, you must learn the art of selective engagement, the strategic decision of when to involve yourself and when to remain silent, because powerful men do not insert themselves into every conflict, conversation, or opportunity. They choose the exact moments when their presence will have maximum impact and their absence will strengthen their mystique. Most people exhaust their influence by being too available, too reactive, too accessible. But the man who appears rarely, intentionally, and without seeking approval becomes someone others pay attention to instantly. After selective engagement comes the control of personal narrative, the subtle yet deliberate shaping of what people believe about you, because perception is leverage, and when you control your myth, you control your influence. This does not require lying. It requires highlighting only the aspects of yourself that reinforce power and concealing the parts that weaken your image. You reveal discipline, not doubt, ambition, not insecurity, direction, not confusion. And by doing so, you allow others to build their own intimidating interpretation of who you are. Next, you must master the power of boundaries, the invisible lines that communicate your standards, your self-respect, and the consequences of crossing you. Weak men fear setting boundaries because they fear conflict, judgment, or abandonment. But powerful men set boundaries effortlessly because their identity does not depend on external acceptance. Every time you enforce a boundary silently, through withdrawal, disinterest, or distance, you teach people that you are not controlled by need, validation, or emotional dependence, and that lesson elevates your status in every interaction. Then comes the cultivation of controlled scarcity, the principle that your presence, your attention, your time, and your energy are valuable and therefore limited. People desire what is scarce, pursue what is difficult to obtain, and respect what is not freely available. So the more you limit your exposure, the more value people assign to your existence, and the more power you hold simply by being selective. After scarcity, you must master the power of intention. Every movement, every word, every habit must signal direction rather than randomness. Intentional men appear more powerful because their focus is sharp, their actions are deliberate, and their energy is invested only where impact is possible. Intention creates momentum, momentum creates respect, and respect creates influence. Next, you must build intellectual dominance, the ability to think deeper, faster, and clearer than the average person, because intelligence creates advantage, and advantage creates power. Intellectual dominance is built through relentless curiosity, disciplined observation, and the ability to see patterns, motives, and opportunities that others overlook. When you speak with clarity. When you plan with foresight. When you move with strategy. and people instinctively defer to the mind that sees what they cannot. After intellectual dominance comes the cultivation of emotional gravity, the rare ability to remain calm under pressure while others crumble, because people instinctively look to the calmest person in a chaotic situation, and leadership is often granted to the one who controls the emotional climate. Emotional gravity is built through hardship, repetition, and the refusal to break under stress until your internal world becomes so stable that external storms barely move you. Next, you must learn the subtle art of power projection. Non-verbal communication, micro-expressions, pacing, tone modulation, stillness, and intentional pauses. These tools allow you to communicate authority without speaking loudly or threatening overtly. A still man is more intimidating than a frantic one, a quiet man more dangerous than a loud one, and a controlled man more respected than a reactive one. People trust stability, and stability is your silent language of dominance. Then comes the principle of asymmetry, the ability to approach every situation in ways others do not expect, responding with silence to provocation, patience to pressure, curiosity to aggression, and neutrality to emotional manipulation. Asymmetry breaks the psychological patterns people rely on to control or predict you, rendering their strategies useless. After asymmetry comes the cultivation of strategic alliances, not friendships, but mutually beneficial relationships built on respect, value, and aligned interests. Powerful men do not walk alone. They walk with individuals who elevate their access, amplify their influence, and protect their blind spots. But these alliances are chosen carefully, with detachment, high standards, and the willingness to walk away instantly when loyalty is compromised. Finally, the strategic use of power requires consistency. Your presence, your standards, your discipline, your unpredictability, your neutrality, your silence, your focus must become a lifestyle, not an act. People may doubt an image, but they cannot doubt consistency, and the man who lives his power becomes unquestionable, unshakable, and unforgettable. Comment below. I move with silent power. From this point forward, you no longer seek influence, you embody it. You no longer pursue power, you radiate it. And every room you enter, every conversation you touch, every path you walk will bend subtly in your favor, because you have mastered the dark, quiet, calculated art of presence, strategy, and psychological dominance that separates average men from those who become untouchable. Number 9. The cold discipline of self-reinvention without mercy. Reinvention is not a gentle process, and it is never meant to feel comfortable, familiar, or forgiving. It is a cold, merciless act of self-surgery where you cut away every weakness, every excuse, every dependency, and every outdated version of yourself that no longer serves the man you are becoming. Because transformation demands brutality, not softness, and if you cannot be ruthless with yourself, the world will be ruthless for you. The discipline of reinvention begins with radical self-honesty, the ability to look at who you are without filters, without delusion, without ego, and acknowledge the habits that keep you mediocre, the fears that keep you small, and the comforts that keep you stagnant. Most men lie to themselves, and that is why they never evolve. But you must become the rare exception, the man willing to confront his flaws like an enemy, dissect them, destroy them, and replace them with strength. Next comes the discipline of subtraction, the removal of everything in your life that weakens you, people who drain your energy, environments that dull your mind, routines that slow your growth, and desires that distract your focus. Reinvention is not about adding more, it is about removing what's holding you back, clearing mental and emotional clutter, breaking patterns that trap you, and eliminating anything that limits your potential. Power grows in empty space, not crowded chaos. Then comes the discipline of self-redefinition, where you intentionally craft the man you want to become, rather than letting life shape you by default. You choose your standards, your values, your internal rules, your habits, your image, your strategy, your emotional code, and you hold yourself to these new foundations with uncompromising consistency, because reinvention is not an event. It is a daily decision to align your behavior with your higher identity. After this comes the discipline of sacrifice, the willingness to give up comfort, entertainment, laziness, and social validation so you can invest your time, energy, and focus into the construction of your future self. Sacrifice is the currency of transformation, and weak men refuse to pay it. But you must not hesitate, because every sacrifice you make becomes a brick in the architecture of your new identity. Then comes the discipline of endurance, the psychological toughness to continue building even when progress is invisible, even when doubt whispers, even when effort feels heavier than reward, because most men quit during the silent phases of transformation, the phases where no one sees their work, no one praises their growth, and no one believes in their potential. But the man who keeps going in silence becomes unstoppable in public. Next comes the discipline of repetition, because mastery is not born from intensity, but consistency. Anyone can change for a day, but reinvention requires the same cold decisions, the same sharp standards, the same disciplined actions repeated again and again until they become permanent, automatic, and natural. You must become relentless with the behaviors that define your new identity. Training, studying, working, planning, analyzing, refining, without waiting for motivation or emotion to fuel you. Then comes the discipline of reinforcement, the daily reminder to yourself of who you are becoming, what you stand for, and what you refuse to return to. Your environment, your routines, your goals, and your mindset must constantly reinforce your evolution, so the old version of you has no place to return to. Finally, the cold discipline of reinvention demands that you never mourn the man you used to be, because he was the price you had to pay for the man you are destined to become. Comment below. I reinvent myself without mercy. From this moment on, your transformation is not optional. It is mandatory. Your old self is gone, your new identity is rising, and the world will soon witness a version of you shaped by intention, sharpened by discipline, and hardened by the kind of evolution only the brave ever attempt. Number 10. The final ascension into your unpredictable, unbreakable, untouchable self. Ascension is not a moment of glory. It is a moment of realization, the quiet understanding that you have crossed the threshold between who you were and who you have become, and there is no path back. No regression, no returning to the softness, hesitation, or predictability that once defined you. This final phase of your transformation is where everything you've built, your silence, your discipline, your detachment, your emotional control, your strategic identity, merges into one unified force, shaping you into a man who is not merely strong, but untouchable, not merely confident, but unreadable, not merely resilient, but unbreakable. Ascension begins with the acceptance that you are now different, fundamentally altered, and that this new version of you carries responsibilities your old self could not handle. The responsibility to stay consistent, the responsibility to stay strategic, and the responsibility to never again betray your growth by falling back into emotional impulses or weak patterns. Most people evolve temporarily. They rise for a season, then collapse into old habits because their reinvention was cosmetic, not structural. But your evolution is internal, rooted, earned in silence, and reinforced through discipline, and that makes it permanent. Next comes the final sharpening of your unpredictability, the ability to move through life with fluid adaptability. Not rigid, not fixed, not predictable, because a man who cannot be anticipated cannot be controlled. And a man who cannot be controlled becomes a threat to every system built on predictability. You speak less, listen more, act slower, think deeper, and move differently, always choosing the unexpected angle, the quieter approach, the smarter path. People will sense this, but never understand it, because they are used to men who broadcast their intentions, not men who guard them like weapons. Then comes the reinforcement of your unbreakability, the stage where your emotional independence becomes complete. You no longer seek validation. You no longer fear abandonment. You no longer crumble under pressure, because you now operate from a foundation built on purpose, not approval. You carry yourself with a cold, steady confidence that does not spike with praise or tremble with criticism. And this emotional stillness becomes your shield, your compass, and your power. Finally, ascension demands that you embrace your untouchable nature fully, without guilt, without apology, without shrinking to make others comfortable, because the world will try to pull you back the moment it realizes it can no longer control you. People fear the man they cannot influence, resent the man they cannot predict, and envy the man they cannot break. But their discomfort is not your burden. Your mission is not to be liked, understood, or accepted. Your mission is to rise into the highest, rarest form of selfhood. A man who directs his life with strategy, shields his mind with discipline, protects his energy with detachment, and moves with a presence so controlled that even silence becomes a form of intimidation. Comment below, I ascend without fear. From this moment forward, you walk as the final product of everything you have endured, destroyed, rebuilt, and mastered. Unpredictable in your movements, unbreakable in your spirit, untouchable in your power. And this version of you, he does not fall, he does not bend, he does not return to who he was, he only rises.